Hey there, and welcome back to the LingoNAS Book Club. It's been a while. It's been a while. I really haven't had time to record videos. But today we're stepping into the foggy streets of London with none other than our friend Sherlock Holmes. We're reading The Adventure of the Veiled Lodger. Yes, that's the one. And listen, I haven't read it either. I haven't read any of these. So I felt like a bit of reading today. So this is my first time discovering the story. I'm hoping to wrap it up in about an hour or 90 minutes because I've got to watch the Formula One. Let's see if I can get it done in time. So, just like you, I'm discovering the story for the first time. So if you in the mood for a bit of mystery, a bit of suspense, some good old-fashioned detective brilliance, really old school English, you're in the right place. So, what's this story about? Any ideas? If you have any clues, pop it into the comments. But I didn't even ask ChatGPT to do a summary for me because I really want to be surprised. But what I know so far is there's a lodger, and the lodger is veiled. And Sherlock Holmes is on the case. That's all I've got for you. At any point in the story, if you think you know who's guilty, who's suspicious, who's acting a bit shady, tell me in the comments. I love seeing your predictions as we go along. I'll be reading along, I'll just be reacting in real time. So, like I said, no, I haven't secretly read the ending. I have no clue what this is about or how it's going to end. Now, if you are an ESL learner, if you're listening for fun, amazing. But if you are an English learner, well, this is an adventure into learning. Let me tell you why. You're going to listen to me, a native English speaker. You're going to learn grammar and vocabulary in context. And the thing is, the reason I started this book club is because reading doesn't have to be boring. I'm a CELTA certified teacher, but my English level has always been pretty high. I've been a writer since my teens. And the reason I reached that level of English was not through grammar books. It's not because I had great English teachers. I mean, they were nice, they were good, but they didn't give me the skills that books did. I think I became a bookworm at the age of 6 and I never stopped. Reading got me through tough times. It's how I escape, how I imagine, how I think. Some people scroll through TikTok. I just need a good story. Whether it's I'm not able to sleep, or I'm on a plane, or I'm stressed out, or I just have a free day, just give me a book. So if you are someone who's stuck at B2 and you want to level up, well, just listening to this, hearing the rhythm, hearing the pronunciation, the natural sentence patterns, all of that's going to help. I'll pause here and there in the reading just to highlight interesting language or phrasing or give you my opinion because I'm also reading for fun. So I'm going to give you my opinion and I hope you put your opinion in the comments. And you're going to just absorb fluent English without even trying. But in the story, what should we be listening for? Okay, who's hiding something? What clues are being dropped early on? Hmm. And why? Think about it, the veiled lodger. So why is the lodger veiled? Anything else? What's Holmes thinking but not saying out loud? I think he's got a lot of thoughts trapped in his head. He doesn't always vocalize his thoughts. So, if you're in the mood for a book with me, grab your tea, grab your notebook if you're someone who likes to make notes, and drop your guesses in the comments below. So, let's dive into the adventure of the Veiled Lodger and see what Conan Doyle has up his sleeve this time. Do you know what have something up one's sleeve means? Let me know in the comments. And by the way, if this book club is not really your cup of tea, we do have other channels if you feel that your level is not quite B2 and you want something more relaxing. I will pop all the links for the channels into the description. So go ahead. It's like going into a candy store. Go and choose what you enjoy because that's what learning should be about. The Adventure of the Veiled Lodger. When one considers that Mr. Sherlock Holmes was in active practice for 23 years and that during 17 of these, I was allowed to cooperate with him and to keep note of his doings, it will be clear that I have a mass of material at my command. So he's got a lot of information. The problem has always been not to find, but to choose. There is the long row of yearbooks which fill a shelf, and there are the dispatches filled with documents, a perfect quarry for the student not only of crime, but of the social and official scandals of the late Victorian era. Now, I love this word quarry. A quarry is where you mine limestone, marble. So you're getting something of value there, but you've got to dig for it. A quarry. What a beautiful phrase. Now, concerning these latter, so the official scandals, right? I may say that the writers of agonized letters who begged that the honor of their families or the reputation of famous forebears may not be touched. So, when it comes to the scandals of the late Victorian era, we get letters begging that these secrets, these scandals not be exposed. But they have nothing to fear. We're not going to do that. The discretion and high sense of professional honor which have always distinguished my friend are still at work in the choice of these memoirs, and no confidence will be abused. So, not going to happen. Sherlock Holmes is a professional, he is honorable, and when he's writing his memoirs, no confidence will be abused. So, he will not break anyone's trust. He will not break anyone's confidence. So if people confided in him, it's almost like lawyer client privilege where you don't disclose. There's a special protection there. So Sherlock Holmes has the same attitude. I deprecate, however, in the strongest way the attempts which have been made lately to get at and to destroy these papers. Wow. The source of these outrages is known, and if they are repeated, I have Mr. Holmes' authority for saying that the whole story concerning the politician, the lighthouse, and the trained cormorant will be given to the public. There is at least one reader who will understand. No idea what this word means. Ah, a cormorant, a rather large diving bird with a long neck, a long hooked bill, short legs, and mainly dark plumage. Cormorant. I'm better with fashion brands than with birds. Okay, so forgive me for that one. So apparently someone's been trying to get to these notes, maybe even try to break in. Okay, so let's see what's going on here. It is not reasonable to suppose that every one of these cases gave Holmes the opportunity of showing those curious gifts of instinct and observation, which I have endeavored to set forth in these memoirs. So he's used these cases where Holmes showed off his skills, and a memoir is a historical account or a biography written from personal knowledge. So these are Sherlock Holmes memoirs. Basically, I think it would cover all of his cases, right? Sometimes he had with much effort to pick the fruit, so to solve the case. Sometimes it fell easily into his lap. This is interesting because there's this business English buzzword, and I'm doing course on that, an online course on buzzwords. But this ties in with that, the fruit. And if we just go back for a second, right, then when you're picking the fruit, sometimes it's easy, sometimes the fruit are ripe and they just fall into your lap. But with the business English, there's this concept of the low-hanging fruit. Low-hanging fruit are those that are easy to reach. But of course, that's a buzzword from the 2020s, so much, much later than when this book was written. But the most terrible human tragedies were often involved in those cases which brought him the fewest personal opportunities. And it is one of these which I now desire to record. In telling it, I have made a slight change of name and place, but otherwise the facts are as stated. So he is protecting someone. One forenoon, it was late in 1896. What is forenoon? Before noon? Afternoon? Wow, this is new for me. Well, it's new for the UK dictionary as well, but I'm going to guess that forenoon would be before noon, right? Because afternoon would be afternoon. I received a hurried note from Holmes asking for my attendance. When I arrived, I found him seated in a smoke-laden atmosphere with an elderly, motherly woman of the buxom landlady type in the corresponding chair in front of him. So there was this woman sitting in the chair in front of him, and basically this is a word. It's kind of old-fashioned, but a buxom woman would be a woman with a full figure, a woman who has large breasts. And very often you would hear this phrase, buxom blonde. It's just common that those two words go together. I don't know, some words just go together, or you hear them very often together. So this woman was not skinny. Okay. She was not flat-chested. She was buxom. There is Mrs. Merrilow of South Brixton, said my friend with a wave of the hand. Mrs. Merrilow does not object to tobacco, Watson, if you wish to indulge your filthy habits, if you want to smoke. Mrs. Merrilow has an interesting story to tell, which may well lead to further developments in which your presence may be useful. Anything I can do. You will understand, Mrs. Merrilow, that if I come to Mrs. Rhonda, I should prefer to have a witness. You will make her understand that before we arrive. That's Sherlock Holmes. Lord bless you, Mr. Holmes, said our visitor. She is that anxious to see you that you might bring the whole parish at your heels. Oh, she'll agree to anything. That's how desperately she wants to see you. Then we shall come early in the afternoon. Let us see that we have our facts correct before we start. If we go over them, it will help Dr. Watson to understand your situation. You say that Mrs. Rhonda has been your lodger for 7 years and that you have only once seen her face? And I wish to God I had not, said Mrs. Merrilow. It was, I understand, terribly mutilated, damaged, beautiful word, mutilated, not a beautiful situation, but mutilated is a beautiful word. Probably has Latin roots, which is why I like it. Mutilated, when something is very badly damaged, Some people mutilate books. You know, when you have a paperback and people fold the corner of the book instead of just getting a bookmark, for me, that's mutilating a book. Yeah. I don't like it when people do that because you can use a bookmark. Don't, is it? It's not dog ear. Is it dog ear, the book? It's when you know what I'm talking about, when you press down the corner of the page, because you can use a bookmark. You can use what I used to use in the past, which is boarding passes. I don't anymore because I read on my Kindle. Um, but I have never done that. I don't like it. I also feel really guilty, even if I'm highlighting a textbook. I feel like I'm mutilating it. All right. Well, this woman has bigger problems than my slightly damaged books. Well, Mr. Holmes, you would hardly say it was a face at all. That's how it looked. Our milkman got a glimpse of her once peeping out of the upper window, and he dropped his tin and the milk all over the front garden. That is the kind of face it is. Did you have a milkman growing up? I did. We would leave our glass bottles with coupons outside, and he would deliver milk and orange juice. Clover, back in South Africa, it was Clover, the good old days. When I saw her, I happened on her unawares, so she didn't expect me. She covered up quick, and then she said, "Now, Mrs. Merrilow, you know at last why it is that I never raise my veil." So her face is mutilated. Do you know anything about her history? Nothing at all. Did she give references when she came? No, sir, but she gave hard cash. So, hard cash, not a check or anything, just cash. We often say hard cash, okay? And plenty of it. A quarter's rent right down on the table. So, a quarter would be 3 months in advance, and no arguing about terms. In these times, a poor woman like me can't afford to turn down a chance like that. Did she give any reason for choosing your house? Mine stands well back from the road and is more private than most. Then again, I only take the one and I have no family of my own. I reckon she had tried others and found that mine suited her best. It's privacy she is after, and she is ready to pay for it. So I think she chose my house because it's private. She's the only one living here, and she's happy to pay for the privacy. You say that she never showed her face from first to last, save on the one accidental occasion. Well, it is a very remarkable story, most remarkable. And I don't wonder that you want it examined. So, you only saw her face on that one occasion. It was an accident. This story is remarkable, and I understand why you want me to examine it. I don't, Mr. Holmes. I actually don't want you to examine it. I am quite satisfied so long as I get my rent. You could not have a quieter lodger or one who gives you less trouble. Then what has brought matters to a head? Okay, so when matters are brought to a head, it means that there's how shall I put it? When you bring matters to a head, it comes to a point where some action needs to be taken. Okay, so maybe in the past there was no need for any action, but when matters come to a head, it's time for action or a decision. And if anyone is out there taking notes as we go along, if you want to pop these into the comments, then I will put all of the definitions in the comments as well. So then what has brought matters to a head? Her health, Mr. Holmes. She seems to be wasting away. If you're wasting away, you're getting really thin, you're losing weight, you're disappearing, you're becoming a skeleton. And there's something terrible on her mind. So there's also something going on with her mentally. Murder, she cries, murder. And once I heard her, "You cruel beast, you monster," she cried. It was in the night, and it fair rang through the house and sent the shivers through me. So when she was screaming in fear, it was at night, so I suppose it was even louder and more exaggerated, right? So I went to her in the morning. "Mrs. Rhonda," I says, "if you have anything that is troubling your soul, there's the clergy," I say, "and there's the police. Between them, you should get some help. For God's sake." Not the police," says she, "and the clergy can't change what is past. And yet," she says, "it would ease my mind if someone knew the truth before I died." So she went up to her after the screaming, probably a nightmare, right? And she suggested that she either goes to the church, to a priest, and talks, gets some help, or go to the police. But she says, no, not the police. And a priest, the church can't change what has happened, but it would ease my mind. I would feel relaxed. I would feel at ease. It would help if someone knew the truth before I died. "Well," says I, "if you won't have the regulars, so the police and the clergy, there is this detective man, what we read about, begging your pardon, Mr. Holmes." And she fair jumped at it. Oh, she was so excited about it. She jumped at it. If you jump at something, you immediately agree to it. "That's the man," says she. "I wonder I never thought of it before. Bring him here, Mrs. Merrilow, and if he won't come, tell him I am the wife of Rhonda's wild beast show. Say that, and give him the name Abbas Parva. Here it is as she wrote it, Abbas Parva. That will bring him if he's the man I think he is. So tell him that I'm the wife of Rhonda's wild beast show, and tell him the name Abbas Parva." And then she says, basically, Holmes will know. "And it will too," remarked Holmes. "Very good, Mrs. Merrilow. I should like to have a little chat with Dr. Watson. That will carry us till lunchtime." So forenoon was definitely before noon, before lunchtime. "About 3 o'clock, you may expect to see us at your house in Brixton." Our visitor had no sooner waddled out of the room, waddled. I love these words and these phrases. I really do. Waddled. Can you think about what waddles? It's an animal, it's a creature. Yeah, ducks. Ducks waddle. So if she's waddling, can you imagine her walking like a duck? Love it, love it. And as you are watching, as you're listening, as you're reading along with me, pick out those words, those special words that just add something extra. Go ahead, make a note of them, pop them in the comments. So, waddled. Ah, and then they say it. No other verb can describe Mrs. Merrillow's method of progression, her walk, than Sherlock Holmes threw himself with fierce energy upon the pile of commonplace books in the corner. For a few minutes, there was a constant swish of the leaves, and then, with a grunt of satisfaction, he came upon what he sought. He dived into his books, okay, looking for something. So excited was he that he did not rise, but sat upon the floor like some strange Buddha, like in a meditation pose, with crossed legs, the huge books all round him, and one open upon his knees. "The case worried me at the time, Watson. Here are my marginal notes to prove it. I confess that I could make nothing of it, and yet I was convinced that the coroner was wrong. Have you no recollection of the Abbas Parva tragedy?" "None, Holmes." "And yet you were with me then." "But certainly my own impression was very superficial, for there was nothing to go by, and none of the parties had engaged my services. Perhaps you would care to read the papers. So And there was some kind of drama with this Abbas Parva, and it was in the papers, but no one hired Holmes. So he didn't actually get into the case, from what I understand. And he says to Watson, do you want to read the papers, the notes? Oh, the newspapers, I'm assuming. Could you not give me the points? Like, just give me a summary of it, right? That is very easily done. It will probably come back to your memory as I talk. Rhonda, of course, was a household word. Household word, everyone knew it. Okay, so a household word, a household name, very famous, well known. That is very easily done. It will probably come back to your memory as I talk. Rhonda, of course, was a household word. A household word, a household name, everyone knows it. For example, if you think of, I don't know, a family name, it's a household name. Everyone knows this famous family, or maybe even a household word. It could be like a brand of washing machine. Omo, it's a household word. It's everyone knows it. It's well known. Okay. Everyone in every household knows this word. He was the rival of Wombwell and of Sanger, one of the greatest showmen of his day. There is evidence, however, that he took to drink. So he started drinking, became an alcoholic, and that both he and his show were on the downgrade at the time of the great tragedy. And so he had become an alcoholic, and his show, he were both going downhill, on the downgrade, going downhill, not a positive situation because we're all trying to climb the mountain and get to the top. And if you are on the downgrade or you're on the downhill, things are not going well. The caravan had halted for the night at Abbasparva, which is a small village in Berkshire, when this horror occurred. Oh, I thought Abbasparva was a person. Okay. They were on their way to Wimbledon, traveling by road, and they were simply camping and not exhibiting. So they weren't putting on a show, they were just camping there, as the place is so small a one that it would not have paid them to open. So these were traveling showmen, kind of, I would say, like a circus, right? And they were on the road. The caravan would be not a caravan like a motorhome, more like the gypsy kind of caravan, a whole entourage. Oh, also, when you talk about a group of camels, did you know that that's also called a caravan? Yes, it is. Double check that, but I'm 99.8% sure it's a caravan of camels. So a caravan is just a whole grouping of transportation, to put it simply. So a caravan. And so probably all these coaches or whatever, um, I don't know what kind of vehicles they were traveling in, but anyway, it was a caravan. It stopped for the night at Abbasparva, small village, and they were on their way to Wimbledon. Now they were just traveling through. They did not plan to put on a show. They were just camping. And the reason they didn't put on a show was this place was so small, it wasn't worth their while. They wouldn't have had a big audience, okay? So let's go on and see what happens. They had among their exhibits a very fine North African lion. Sahara King was its name, and it was the habit both of Rhonda and his wife to give exhibitions inside its cage. Here you see is a photograph of the performance by which you will perceive that Rhonda was a huge porcine, what is this word? Oh wow, like a pig, resembling a pig, flushed, porcine, porcine features. Interesting word. Okay. And that his wife was a very magnificent woman, so very beautiful. It was deposed at the inquest that there had been some signs that the lion was dangerous. So there was an inquest, there was an inquiry after this incident. And it was stated that there were signs, there was evidence, there were red flags that the lion was dangerous. But as usual, familiarity begat contempt, and no notice was taken of the fact. Now, this is a very unusual way of saying it because the actual phrase that we use nowadays, modern English, maybe not in 2020, but my era, is familiarity breeds contempt. So when you become familiar with something, it breeds contempt. It means that you no longer pay attention to it. So they knew that this lion might be dangerous, but they knew the lion. They were so familiar with it that they didn't take notice of it. So familiarity breeds contempt. When things are too familiar, we don't treat them as special anymore. That's usually the way that it's used. So things that are too easily available or accessible, people are contemptuous of it. They don't really value it. They don't even respect it. So this was kind of the situation with the lion. Okay, so it was usual for either Rhonda or his wife to feed the lion at night. Sometimes one went, sometimes both, but they never allowed anyone else to do it, for they believed that so long as they were the food carriers, he would regard them as benefactors and would never molest them. So they were kind of playing psychological games with the lion. I feed you, I'm your friend, so you will not attack me. So molest is attacked, benefactors, people who are kind, who are giving. Um, Anything else there to unpack? No. On this particular night, 7 years ago, they both went, and a very terrible happening followed, the details of which have never been made clear. It seems that the whole camp was roused near midnight by the roars of the animal and the screams of the woman. The different grooms and employees rushed from their tents, carrying lanterns, and by their light, the light of the lanterns, an awful sight was revealed. Rhonda lay with the back of his head crushed in and deep claw marks across his scalp, some 10 yards from the cage, which was open. Close to the door of the cage lay Mrs. Rhonda upon her back, with the creature squatting and snarling above her. It had torn her face in such a fashion that it was never thought that she could live. Several of the circus men, headed by Leonardo, the strong man, and Griggs, the clown, drove the creature off with poles, upon which it sprang back into the cage and was at once locked in. How it had got loose was a mystery. It was conjectured, it was suggested, it was hypothesized that the pair intended to enter the cage, but that when the door was loosed, the creature bounded out upon them. There was no other point of interest in the evidence except that the woman, in a delirium, out of her senses, delirium of agony, kept screaming. So she was in this extreme pain, agony, and in that pain, that delirium, she was not in her normal senses, but she was screaming, "Coward, coward," as she was carried back to the van in which they lived. It was 6 months before she was fit to give evidence, fit well enough, but the inquest was duly held with the obvious verdict of death from misadventure, so accidental. What alternative could be conceived, said I. You may well say so, and yet there were one or two points which worried young Edmonds of the Berkshire Constabulary, so the police. A smart lad that. He was sent later to Allahabad. That was how I came into the matter, for he dropped in and smoked a pipe or two over it. So I know him because we met at this place. He dropped by to see me. We smoked a pipe and we chatted. A thin, yellow-haired man? Exactly. I was sure you would pick up the trail presently. I was sure you would catch on to what I'm talking about eventually. But what worried him? Well, we were both worried. It was so deucedly difficult to reconstruct the affair. Look at it from the lion's point of view. He is liberated. What does he do? He takes half a dozen bounds forward, which brings him to Rhonda. Rhonda turns to fly. The claw marks were on the back of his head, but the lion strikes him down. Then, instead of bounding on and escaping, we're talking about the lion now, returns to the woman who was close to the cage, and he knocks her over and chews her face up. Then again, those cries of hers would seem to imply that her husband had in some way failed her. What could the poor devil have done to help her? You see the difficulty? I want to go back because there was a word here, deucedly difficult, used for emphasis, especially to express disapproval or frustration. So you might have heard this phrase before. What the deuce? What the deuce? Okay, it's used for emphasis. He's liberated, he's free. A dozen bounds, jumps, leaps forward. So the lion, instead of running forward and escaping, he knocks her over. Oh gosh, look at the choice of this verb. He chews her face like food. Wow, Doyle is brilliant. But when she screams, coward, coward, it seems like she's saying that the husband failed her in some way. So he didn't protect her, he didn't support her. But what could the poor devil, talking about the husband, have done? So let's see what's going on here. Quite. And then there was another thing. It comes back to me now. Oh, I remember it now. As I think it over, comes back to me now. I remember it. That's a nice phrase. So if anyone out there has a notebook, write that one down. It comes back to me now. Oh, I forgot about that. But it comes back to me now. Now I know. Now I remember. There was some evidence that just at the time the lion roared and the woman screamed, a man began shouting in terror. This man Rhonda, no doubt? Well, if his skull was smashed in, you would hardly expect to hear from him again. There were at least two witnesses who spoke of the cries of a man being mingled with those of a woman. So there were two witnesses who said that it wasn't just the cries of the woman, but the cries of a man mingled, mixed, mingled. People also mingle, they mix. People mingle at an event. They walk around and they chat and they interact. So it's mix, mix, mingled, mix. I should think the whole camp was crying out by then. As to the other points, I think I could suggest a solution. I should be glad to consider it. The two were together 10 yards from the cage when the lion got loose. The man turned and was struck down. Oh, the woman conceived the idea of getting into the cage and shutting the door. It was her only refuge. It was the only escape, a refuge, a place to hide, to escape. She made for it. So if she made for it, made a run for it. Made a run for it means run to it. She made a run for it. So she made for it. And just as she reached it, the beast bounded after her and knocked her over. She was angry with her husband for having encouraged the beast's rage by turning. If they had faced it, they might have cowed it. Hence her cries of coward. So the beast's rage, its anger, and if they had faced it instead of running away, they might have scared it, cowed it, scared it. It's got nothing to do with cow. We're looking for the verb here. So this is the thing when you're looking for vocabulary, when you're searching for meanings, make sure that it's in context. So look here, they're only giving you the vocabulary, the definition for the noun, but this is for the verb. Okay, this is interesting though. We've got a cow, and then we've got informal for an unpleasant or disliked woman. Yeah, we use this often talking about people we don't like. Oh, she's a stupid cow. It's informal. It means we don't like the person. But here, cowed refers to a verb. So cow, coward, hide. Can you see? Yeah, the link. Okay, so that's a new one. Brilliant, Watson. Only one flaw in your diamond. So that's brilliant, like a diamond. Oh my gosh. He speaks pure poetry, but there's only one flaw. What is the flaw, Holmes? If they were both 10 steps from the cage, how came the beast to get loose? So how did the lion get loose? Is it possible that they had some enemy who loosed it? Someone who opened the cage, an enemy? And why should it attack them savagely when it was in the habit of playing with them and doing tricks with them inside the cage? Yeah, that part's confusing. Possibly the same enemy had done something to enrage it. Holmes looked thoughtful and remained in silence for some moments. Well, Watson, there is this to be said for your theory. Rondo was a man of many enemies. Edmonds told me that in his cups he was horrible. What a lovely phrase. In his cups, when he was drunk. There's some such beautiful old English here. I'm loving it. But I understand that it could be very confusing for someone who is just learning English, which is why I try to break down everything. But if I've forgotten some things, let me know in the comments, and not just the word, if you can put in the entire sentence, and then I'll provide the definitions, all right? A huge bully of a man, he cursed, swore. By the way, speaking of cursing, I've just done a video about Charlize Theron, who is just dropping the F-bomb, swearing, using the F word like 200 times in 200 seconds. You can check that out on the main channel. So he cursed and slashed at everyone who came in his way when he was in his cups, when he was drunk. I expect those cries about a monster, of which our visitor has spoken, were nocturnal reminiscences of the dear departed. So the wife was crying out about what a monster her husband was. Dear departed. Have you heard this at funerals? Maybe even on Netflix when they're fake funerals, right? Dearly departed. The departed is the dead. So, dear departed, the dead. However, our speculations are futile until we have all the facts. There is a cold partridge on the sideboard, Watson, and a bottle of Montrachet. So, a partridge is a type of duck, game bird. Okay, duck. We're talking about lunch on the sideboard. So, I don't know about you guys growing up. If you're older, we had a dining room table and a sideboard where all the food, the dishes, I say dishes, I mean food, were spread out almost like a buffet, and then you could go and help yourself to the food. So he's saying, well, there's some food, so let us renew our energies. Let's eat before we make a fresh call upon them. So renew our energies, eat. If food gives you energy, right? So when our hansom, remember this from previous ones, the hansom cab, the two-wheeled horse-drawn cab, deposited us, dropped us off at the house of Mrs. Merrilow, we found that plump lady blocking up the open door of her humble but retired abode. It was very clear that her chief preoccupation, chief main preoccupation, was lest she should lose a valuable lodger. Oh, that's what she's most concerned about, losing that income. A lodger is someone who is renting a home. I really should, or a room. I really should have explained this at the very beginning. Okay. It's chiefly British, a person who rents accommodation in another person's home, like a roommate or housemate. Okay. So a lodger, very British. And she implored us, she begged us before showing us up to say and do nothing which could lead to so undesirable an end. So don't say anything, okay, that would make her leave. Then, having reassured her, we followed her up the straight, badly carpeted staircase and were shown into the room of the mysterious lodger. It was a close, musty, ill-ventilated place, as might be expected, since its inmate seldom left it. From keeping beasts in a cage, the woman seemed, by some retribution of fate, to have become herself a beast in a cage, locked up in this room. She sat now in a broken armchair in the shadowy corner of the room. Long years of inaction had coarsened the lines of her figure, but at some period it must have been beautiful and was still full and voluptuous. Voluptuous. Marilyn Monroe, all those beautiful curves, sexually attractive, voluptuous. A thick dark veil covered her face, but it was cut off close at her upper lip and showed a perfectly shaped mouth and a delicately rounded chin. I could well conceive that she had indeed been a very remarkable woman. Her voice, too, was well modulated and pleasing, so it wasn't a screech. It was well modulated, nice tone, nice timbre. And yes, I say timbre because it's got to do with tone. It's not high and screechy. And it was pleasing. My name is not unfamiliar to you, Mr. Holmes, said she. I thought that it would bring you, my name. You'd come because of my name. That is so, madam, though I do not know how you are aware that I was interested in your case. I learned it when I had recovered my health and was examined by Mr. Edmonds, the county detective. I fear I lied to him. Perhaps it would have been wiser had I told the truth. It is usually wiser to tell the truth, but why did you lie to him? Because the fate of someone else depended upon it. I know that he was a very worthless being, and yet I would not have his destruction upon my conscience. We had been so close, so close. Uh-oh. I sensed that there was a love triangle going on here. Maybe she was involved with someone else, especially when the husband was in his cups, when he became an alcoholic, when he was drunk. Um, we had been so close, so close. Is that a euphemism for saying that they were having an affair? And who is this guy? Can you remember who was mentioned the night of the attack? The clown and the strong man. Was there anything else? That's what I remember. Like I said, I'm reading this the first time with you guys. I don't have any study notes or chat GPT summaries. I'm doing this blind with you guys. But has this impediment been removed? So has this person that you were protecting been removed? Yes, sir. The person that I allude to is dead. When you allude to something or someone, you are referring to. Allude to. Beautiful word. So many beautiful words today. Suggest. Call attention to. Indirectly. Hint at. Allude to. Hint at. Very nice. Loving this one. Then why should you not now tell the police anything you know? Because there is another person to be considered. That other person is myself. I could not stand the scandal and publicity which would come from a police examination. I have not long to live, but I wish to die undisturbed. And yet I wanted to find one man of judgment to whom I could tell my terrible story, so that when I am gone, all might be understood when I'm gone, when I die. You compliment me, madam. At the same time, I am a responsible person. I do not promise you that when you have spoken, I may not myself think it is my duty to refer the case to the police. I think not, Mr. Holmes. I know your character and methods too well, for I have followed your work for some years. Reading is the only pleasure which fate has left me. Fate, because of my situation, right? And I miss little which passes in the world. She's a reader like us. But in any case, I will take my chance of the use which you may make of my tragedy. I'll take my chances. If you tell, you tell. It will ease my mind to tell it. It will be a relief for me to tell it. My friend, Watson, and I would be glad to hear it. The woman rose and took from a drawer the photograph of a man. He was clearly a professional acrobat, a man of magnificent physique. Taken with his huge arms folded across his swollen chest, and a smile breaking from under his heavy moustache. The self-satisfied smile of the man of many conquests. Now, I wonder what these conquests are. Are they sexual conquests or conquest of what? A conquistador. But you can conquer so many things. But usually when we talk about conquest without context, it's sexual context, a conquest. So maybe many girlfriends or lovers, however you want to term it. That is Leonardo, she said. Leonardo, the strong man who gave evidence. OMG, I am good at this. Did you guess this as well? Okay, the same. And this is my husband. It was a dreadful face. Oh gosh. Really, Doyle? Really? A human pig? Ugh. Or rather, a human wild boar? For it was formidable in its bestiality, like a beast. From the word beast, you don't need to check every word. Read it in context and get a feeling of the sentence and trust your instincts. Bestiality, oh my gosh. He looked like a beast, a human wild boar. Ah, gosh. One could imagine that vile mouth, that awful mouth, vile, anything bad, nasty. We also use vile language, bad language, the swear words, vile, vile mouth, champing and foaming in its rage like a wild bull. And one could conceive those small, vicious eyes darting pure malignancy as they looked forth upon the world. Ah, malignancy from malign, like a tumor. Wow, that is beautiful in all its ugliness, that entire paragraph. Ruffian, bully, beast. It was all written on that heavily jowled face. Can we go back and read this one more time because it's beautiful in its ugliness? Does that make sense? It's brilliantly beautiful. It's a masterpiece. It was a dreadful face, a human pig, or rather a human wild boar, for it was formidable in its bestiality. One could imagine that vile mouth champing and foaming in its rage, and one could conceive those small, vicious eyes darting pure malignancy as they looked forth upon the world. Ruffian, bully, beast. It was all written on that heavily jowled face. I want to break it down for you. Wow. So dreadful, fine, formidable, okay, scary, inspiring fear or respect, but fear, it's scary. Let's move on to bestiality, savagely cruel, depraved behavior, because it comes from this idea of sexual intercourse between a person and an animal. And that vile mouth, I told you, unpleasant, vile temper, vile smells, vile language, morally bad, wicked. Oh, wow. Champing like a horse. The action of a horse biting, chewing, munching, noisy, champing. You know, the horse has the bit in its mouth, it champs at the bit. Foaming in its rage. Okay, foaming like a wild animal, like a bull foaming at the mouth. Darting, here we go. Malignancy, we did that. Ruffian, oh, lovely ruffian, a violent person, especially one involved in crime. Bully's an easy one, and heavily jowled face. Jowls when they're hanging, not a good look. Those two pictures will help you, gentlemen, to understand the story. I was a poor circus girl, brought up on the sawdust, and doing springs through the hoop before I was 10. When I became a woman, this man loved me, if such lust as his can be called love. It wasn't love, it was lust. It was a sexual attraction. And in an evil moment, I became his wife. From that day, I was in hell, and he the devil who tormented me. There was no one in the show who did not know of his treatment. He deserted me for others. Okay, so he was sleeping around, he was cheating. He tied me down and lashed me with his riding whip when I complained. They all pitied me and they all loathed him. But what could they do? They feared him, one and all, for he was terrible at times and murderous when he was drunk. Again and again, he was had up for assault. I'm going to I haven't read the rest of the sentence, but I'm going to say that had up for assault means he was arrested for assault. Let's check that on the next page. Oh, wow. And for cruelty to the beasts. But he had plenty of money and the fines were nothing to him. So it was a legal thing, it was a criminal charge. So if you are brought up on charges, it means that you are charged with some kind of crime. But then he had plenty of money. They gave him fines. He just paid them. The best men all left us, and the show began to go downhill. It was only Leonardo and I who kept it up, with little Jimmy Griggs, the clown. Poor devil. He had not much to be funny about, but he did what he could to hold things together, to hold things together, to keep it going, to not give up, to not quit. We use this very often, when families are going through tough times, they just hold things together. They just stay in there and they just keep going. They soldier on. They hold things together. They don't let things fall apart. That would be the opposite. Silly me. Hold things together. And the opposite would be when things fall apart. So now you know what it means. Then Leonardo came more and more into my life. You see what he was like. I know now, poor spirit that was hidden in that splendid body. But compared to my husband, he seemed like the angel Gabriel. He pitied me and helped me, till at last our intimacy turned to love, deep, deep, passionate love, such love as I had dreamt of but never hoped to feel. My husband suspected it, but I think that he was a coward as well as a bully, and that Leonardo was the one man that he was afraid of. He took revenge in his own way by torturing me more than ever. One night my cries brought Leonardo to the door of our van. We were near tragedy that night, and soon my lover and I understood that it could not be avoided. My husband was not fit to live. We planned that he should die. Leonardo had a clever scheming brain. It was he who planned it. I do not say that to blame him, for I was ready to go with him every inch of the way. I was all in. But I should never have had the wit, the intelligence to think of such a plan. We made a club. Leonardo made it, and in the leaden head he fastened 5 long steel nails. The points outward were just such a spread as the lion's paw. This was to give my husband his death blow, and yet to leave the evidence that it was the lion which we would lose who had done the deed. So they made a club like a horseshoe, but for a lion, I think, right? And they put 5 long steel nails. It was big enough for the lion's paw. And so the lion would attack the husband. So I think the nails would go into the lion's paw, and the lion would be so enraged that it would just lash out. No, I think I've got this wrong. They were not going to put this on the lion. They created something that looked like the lion's paw, but it was made with steel. So they were going to slam his head in. They were going to do it, but it would look like the lion had done it. And then they would leave the lion loose, so it all fit together. There was a lion on the loose, and the smashed in head looked like it was done by the lion. but they would be the one basically killing the husband. It was a pitch dark night when my husband and I went down, as was our custom, to feed the beast. We carried with us the raw meat in a zinc pail, so like a metal steel pail, zinc. Leonardo was waiting at the corner of the big van, which we should have to pass before we reached the cage. He was too slow, and we walked past him before he could strike. But he followed us on tiptoe, and I heard the crash as the club smashed my husband's skull. My heart leaped with joy at the sound. Wow. I sprang forward, and I undid the catch which held the door of the great lion's cage. So now they're going to make it look like an accident. And then the terrible thing happened. You may have heard how quick these creatures are to scent, to smell human blood, and how it excites them like sharks, right? You put blood in the water and there's a feeding frenzy. That's why when people are surfing and if they have a cut or something on their leg and it opens up and they start bleeding, the sharks appear. Okay. So some strange instinct had told the creature in one instant that a human being had been slain. As I slipped the bars, it bounded out and was on me in an instant. Leonardo could have saved me. If he had rushed forward and struck the beast with his club, he might have cowed it. But the man lost his nerve. Coward. I heard him shout in terror, and then I saw him turn and fly. At the same instant, the teeth of the lion met in my face. Its hot, filthy breath had already poisoned me, and I was hardly conscious of pain. With the palms of my hand, I tried to push the great, steaming, blood-stained jaws away from me, and I screamed for help. I was conscious that the camp was stirring, and then dimly I remembered a group of men, Leonardo, Griggs, and others, dragging me from under the creature's paws. That was my last memory, Mr. Holmes, for many a weary month. Weary, tired, tiring. If I'm weary, I'm tired, I'm exhausted. When I came to myself and saw myself in the mirror, I cursed that lion. Oh, how I cursed him. Not because he had torn away my beauty, but because he had not torn away my life. It would have been better to be dead. I had but one desire, Mr. Holmes, and I had enough money to gratify it. It was that I should cover myself so that my poor face should be seen by none, and that I should live, where none whom I had ever known should find me. That was all that was left to me to do. And that is what I have done, a poor, wounded beast that has crawled into its hole to die. That is the end of Eugenia Ronda. We sat in silence for some time after the unhappy woman had told her story. Then Holmes stretched out his long arm and patted her hand with such a show of sympathy as I had seldom known him to exhibit. He's showing sympathy. Poor girl, he said, poor girl. The ways of fate are indeed hard to understand. If there is not some compensation hereafter, then the world is a cruel jest. A jest is a joke. So, in the afterlife, not karma. Karma happens here, right? But in the afterlife, we pay for our deeds. We pay for our evil deeds. And if that doesn't happen, that they are not paying for it in the afterlife, then the world is a joke. The world is a cruel jest. But what of this man, Leonardo? I never saw him or heard from him again. Perhaps I have been wrong to feel so bitterly against him. He might as soon have loved one of the freaks whom we carried round the country as the thing which the lion had left. But a woman's love is not so easily set aside. He had left me under the beast's claws. He had deserted me in my need, and yet I could not bring myself to give him to the gallows, to the gallows, to the prison, to the jail, very British. Okay. Not just that. It's the execution, the gallows. So the wooden platform with the hangman kind of thing and the rope, the gallows. But I'm pretty sure that the gallows is also a prison. No? Can we just check more? No, it's execution by hanging. Deeper than just prison, it's execution. Old English galga. For myself, I cared nothing what became of me. What could be more dreadful than my actual life? But I stood between Leonardo and his fate, the gallows. And he is dead. He was drowned last month when bathing near Margate. I saw his death in the paper. And what did he do with this five-clawed club, which is the most singular and ingenious part of all your story? I cannot tell, Mr. Holmes. I don't know. There is a chalk pit by the camp with a deep green pool at the base of it, perhaps. In the depths of that pool? Well, it is of little consequence now. The case is closed. Yes, said the woman, the case is closed. We had risen to go, but there was something in the woman's voice which arrested Holmes' attention, got his attention. He turned swiftly upon her. Your life is not your own, he said. Keep your hands off it. What use is it to anyone, my life? How can you tell? The example of patient suffering is in itself the most precious of all lessons to an impatient world. Suffering, slowly dying. It's the most precious of all lessons to an impatient world. I need to go back because I'm not sure what's going on here. The case is closed. So she's got closure, but there was something in her voice which grabbed his attention. So he says, your life is not your own. Keep your hands off your life. He got the feeling that she was going to take her own life, that she was going to commit suicide. And she says, what good is my life to anyone? And he says, you're an example of patient suffering in a world that is so impatient. It is the most precious of lessons that you can give to the world, to suffer slowly, in silence, to be patient. The woman's answer was a terrible one. She raised her veil and stepped forward into the light. I wonder if you could bear it, she said. It was horrible. No words can describe the framework of a face when the face itself is gone. Two living and beautiful brown eyes looking sadly out from that grisly ruin did but make the view more awful. It's a ruin like a coliseum falling down, wrecked, destroyed. Holmes held up his hand in a gesture of pity and protest, and together we left the room. 2 days later, when I called upon my friend, he pointed with some pride to a small blue bottle upon his mantelpiece. I picked it up. There was a red poison label. A pleasant almondy odor rose when I opened it. Prussic acid, said I. Exactly. It came by post. I send you my temptation. I will follow your advice. So she had the poison ready. She was planning to take her life. That was the message she sent him. This poison is my temptation to end my life. I'll follow your advice. Here we go. I'm giving it to you. I'm removing temptation. That was the message. I think, Watson, we can guess the name of the brave woman who sent it. Wow. And if you love that, look what's next. I don't think we've read this. So let's do it soon. Let's get some views on this video, and I will start recording the next one. So thanks for joining me today. And that's a wrap on the adventure of the Veiled Lodger. What a ride. Mysterious, a little tragic, and very, very human. So, phew, tell me, did you guess the truth before it was revealed? Did Holmes surprise you again? He surprises me every single time. Or did you suspect that something was off from the very beginning? I'd like to know your thoughts. Would you like to give this book a rating? Is it something you enjoyed? Would you like more Sherlock Holmes? Please drop your thoughts, your reactions, your theories, your suggestions in the comments below. Let's talk about it. And that way, I can put together a great one for the next session. To be honest, I think I want to stick with Sherlock Holmes for a bit. I love that Conan Doyle always gives us more than just a mystery. There's psychology, there's grief, there's guilt, and there's so many layers to the people that Holmes encounters. They're never just criminals, they're never just victims. They're real, they flawed humans like you and me. And I think that's why his stories have longevity. That's why his stories still hold up today. That's why his stories still resonate with an audience so many years later. So if you're reading this as an English learner, take a moment to reflect. What phrases stood out for you in today's reading? Did you hear any expressions or maybe idiomatic language or sentence structures that felt new? Would you like me to explain them? Pop them in the comments. And this is an interesting one. Let's see if you can do this. This is my challenge to you today. Would you be able to retell the story in your own words? That's where the magic happens, when you understand it so deeply that you can express it clearly. Can you do that? Put it in the comments. And if you've loved this format, then please do take a moment to like and subscribe. We're reading together, we're listening together, we're learning together. And I really would like to know who's out there and who's watching this. So please take a moment to like, take a moment to comment, take a moment to subscribe for more book club episodes. I'm Nas, and it was really a pleasure reading with you today. So stay tuned for more Sherlock Holmes stories maybe some other modern fiction, some short stories. Tell me what you like. We are going to use readings to help you learn through story. We're not going to struggle through grammar books. We're going to take the fun, the fun approach. So once again, thanks for joining me today. Ciao.